Hello, Bleacher Report listeners. My name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, and welcome back to yet another live stream here on the Bleacher Report app talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hopefully, you guys all enjoyed this live stream because today we've got a very, very fun topic to talk about. It is about Buccaneers All-Star wide receiver Mike Evans and where he ranks on the all-time scale, not just in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history, but in NFL history. Because, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys this, Mike Evans is pretty good at football. And the reason we're talking about him today is because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are fresh off of a 21-18 win versus the Carolina Panthers, where Baker Mayfield had 14 of 29 passing, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. What makes this even more interesting is that Mike Evans had 7 catches for 162 yards and a touchdown as well. So just to clarify this, Baker Mayfield had 202 passing yards in this game. Mike Evans had 162 of those 202 passing yards. That's a pretty insane ratio to look at, and I think it just goes to show the overall level of ability that Mike Evans shows year in and year out. Why is this also important, this stat line that we're looking at? Because this is now confirmed to be Mike Evans' 10th consecutive season. That means 10 seasons in a row of 1,000 yards. It is the first time in NFL history that a player has gotten 10 consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards to start off his career. That's just another reason as to why Mike Evans is so good. Hello to everybody in the chat, by the way. Thank you guys so much for being here. It is greatly appreciated. We are diving deep into Mike Evans and what he has been for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers throughout his career. And let's go ahead and dive into that because there's a lot of different stats I want to go over here in the next 20 minutes to kind of really emphasize the greatness of Mike Evans and what he has been for the Bucs. So let's go ahead and first take a look at this. Mike Evans has got 1,000 receiving yards on the year. We already know that, right? We just talked about that, how good he has been. He is at 1,012 receiving yards and 10 receiving touchdowns so far this year. If you guys look, as I just stated, every single year, he has 1,000 receiving yards. I know some people may not think that's a big deal because in today's modern NFL, I think that getting 1,000 receiving yards has been undervalued in a lot of ways, but this is a big deal, folks. This is a big deal. I've always called personally Mike Evans the king of consistency, and it's right here. The proof is in the stats pudding, folks. Mike Evans has 11,437 receiving yards in his career. That is fantastic. He is only 30 years old. He can continue to play in the NFL at a high level. He is just going to continue to rise up the rankings in terms of career receiving yards. And I want to go ahead and dive into that real quick as well. Take a look at the all-time career leaders for receiving yards because Mike Evans is, I think, higher up than a lot of people would probably think. So let's go ahead and go to career here. You see a lot of different names here, right? Up at the top, you've got Jerry Rice, you've got Larry Fitzgerald, you've got Terrell Owens, you've got Randy Moss, Isaac Bruce, Tony Gonzalez. All these different guys are up there, right? 14,000 yards by James Lofton, 13,899 by Chris Carter. Like, Mike Evans is not far off from these numbers, guys. Where's Mike Evans on this list? You only got to go down to number 35. Mike Evans is already in his career number 35 in NFL history in terms of receiving yards, folks. He has more than Deshaun Jackson, more than Travis Kelce, more than Chad Johnson, Roddy White, Keyshawn Johnson, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, AJ Green, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. All of these different wide receivers that are here. Shannon Sharp, that guy's a Hall of Famer. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, all of these guys, Mike Evans has more receiving yards than. A lot of great wide receivers. Who has more than Mike Evans, who he'll eventually pass? Calvin Johnson, Hall of Famer. Don Maynard, Hall of Famer. Antonio Gates, future Hall of Famer. Michael Irvin, Hall of Famer. I think that when everything is said and done, Mike Evans, if he continues this stretch, all he needs is another 1,000 yards, and that would bump him up all the way up into the top 25 if he gets 1,000 yards next year. That's not even including what he gets for the remainder of this season, folks. And that's just in receiving yards. That is just in receiving yards. If we take a look, I want to take a look at receiving touchdowns as well, just to see where Mike Evans is at in his career. Right now, as he stands, he is at 91 receiving touchdowns. That puts him at number 13 in all time, folks. 13th. He's tied with Devontae Adams. Isaac Bruce is also tied with him as well, another Hall of Famer. Rob Gronkowski is above him with 1 touchdown. All these different guys that are above him are all Hall of Famers, if not future Hall of Famers. And Mike Evans is right there with them at a wide receiver who has still got 4-5 years left of his career. Who knows, right? I mean, if he were to go like pull a Jerry Rice and play until he was like 40, I genuinely think you could see Mike Evans get towards number 1 on some of these lists. But I wanted to show this because, in my opinion, Mike Evans is, right now as it stands, a top 35 wide receiver. I don't think that's the stretch to say at minimum if you want to put him as a top 35 wide receiver in all time. And some people may say, whoa, James, you're being biased. What are you talking about? Come on, man. What in the world are you talking about? Well, I also want to take a look at some of the records that Mike Evans has, because I feel like NFL history is also important. We also talked about the idea of Mike Evans, of course, king of consistency. He does hold the NFL record, by the way. And we're going to have to go all the way down here on the Wikipedia page to find what NFL records Mike Evans holds. But here it is, right? Let's take a look at this. If I can zoom in just a smidge, hopefully you guys can see it. I think you can. Mike Evans has been fantastic. I mean, he has. He has the most consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards receiving to begin a career with 10. He is the youngest player to reach 7,000 career receiving yards. He's the youngest player to reach 6,000 career receiving yards. He's the youngest player to have 5 seasons of 1,000 receiving yards, to have 6 seasons of 1,000 receiving yards. He's the youngest player with 200 more yards in a game. Folks, if Mike Evans gets 1,000 yards next year, he will tie Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, for most consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Not to begin a career, because Mike Evans already holds that record, but just in general. He'll tie Jerry Rice, the best wide receiver in NFL history. That matters, man. That matters. And again, when you put it in the national context, when you put it in the historical context of comparing it to all these other different types of guys, not only does Mike Evans hang with a lot of these guys, at only being 30 years old in his career, he excels. That is how amazing Mike Evans has been at this point in his career. We're watching a rare generational talent, folks. A rare generational talent. For Bucs franchise records, he holds all of them. I mean, most receiving yards in a season, he has that. Most receiving touchdowns in a season. Most receiving touchdowns by a rookie in a season. Most receiving yards in a postseason game. Most consecutive games with at least 1 touchdown reception. Most games of 100-yard receiving in a career. Most receiving yards per game in a career. Most consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Most 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Most receiving touchdowns in a year. Most receiving yards in a career. Most receptions in a career. And most total touchdowns scored in a career. That's quarterbacks. That's running backs. That's everything in between. Mike Evans has the most. Insane. levels. And that number has only gone up, by the way, because now he's at 91. So he just continues to bump up his own records. But it just goes to show that Mike Evans holds virtually every single Tampa Bay Buccaneers record, holds a good amount of NFL records as well. And whenever you take a look at his overall career accolades so far up to this point, he's a guy that also is no slouch to this either. I think that if you know, Mike Evans did not get a Super Bowl ring, right? Because he is a Super Bowl champion. The Buccaneers won Super Bowl 55, as you can see over here, right to the left of me. That would have been something that where maybe the national people might not have paid as much attention to Mike Evans as they've done in the past. But now you're seeing more national recognition of Mike Evans because he's a Super Bowl champion, because he's a second team All-Pro, but because he's a 4-time Pro Bowler. These are the types of things that are now, along with him literally making NFL history, is what's having the national media, and it's what's having the national platform of fans pay more attention to a guy like Mike Evans. And folks, there is no reason to believe that Mike Evans is going to slow down anytime soon. I mean, I just named off all of those records that Mike Evans has had in his career and all the stats that he has had in his career. It's important to remember who Mike Evans has had at quarterback, by the way. A lot of people have compared it to like Larry Fitzgerald's situation. Don't necessarily know if it's that bad, but you look at the quarterbacks he's had. A lot of people forget he had Josh McCown and Mike Glennon as his first 2 quarterbacks going all the way back to 2014. Then you had Jameis Winston from 2015 to 2019. Then, of course, obviously, you're going to see success with Tom Brady. Oh, sorry, Ryan Fitzpatrick was in there as well with Jameis Winston. Tom Brady, obviously, you saw success in that type of scenario. It's the first time where he had the greatest quarterback of all time throwing him the football, which, by the way, another point to Mike Evans, Tom Brady would gush and just constantly compliment Mike Evans time and time and time again. It's one of the reasons Tom Brady came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because a guy like Mike Evans was a part of that football team. That is just speaks for itself. When the greatest quarterback of all time says, yeah, I want to play with Mike Evans, that certainly matters. Then in 2023, now you have Baker Mayfield. Folks, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. Mike Evans is getting his 1,000 yards and is going to continue to build up on his own legacy and continue to build up in NFL history. Point blank, simple as that. And it again, there's no reason to say that he's going to be slowing down any time soon. A lot of people have compared him to Larry Fitzgerald. I think it's a very good comparison in terms of the longevity of Mike Evans' career, but in terms of consistency, nobody's beating Mike Evans. I mean, besides Jerry Rice until possibly next year, but in terms of consistently getting 1,000 yards, in terms of consistently being able to put up numbers, Mike Evans is that guy. He's NFL history. He's Buccaneers history. That is just phenomenal. I don't even think that people truly fully understand how rare it is to get a guy that is a Hall of Famer, to get a guy that is the greatest offensive player in your team's history. History, man. We're never going to see another wide receiver like Mike Evans ever again. And if we do, holy crap, that's going to be a very fortunate situation, right? So right now, as it stands, I would put Mike Evans at least top 35, maybe top 30. And I've seen a lot of different people in the chat talk about it where, some people are saying top 5, some people are saying top 10, some people are saying all these different types of things where Mike Evans is ranking in the top 5, ranking in the top 10. I wouldn't put Mike Evans there just yet. I wouldn't. But I would definitely put Mike Evans in the top 35, maybe top 30 of wide receivers in NFL history. He's right up there with Hall of Famers. He's right up there with consistent All-Pros. He's right up there with guys who, you see all the documentaries about, you see all the just historical references of the all-time greats. In 10 years, I think we're going to be seeing very similar things said about Mike Evans, about how, man, whenever you look back on things, you were watching greatness week in and week out, year in and year out. And I think that also getting a Super Bowl ring helps him out massively. I think that that goes along with the Pro Bowls that you see, the All Pros that you see. Those are the types of things just continue to build up that national legacy of what you see with Evans. In terms of current wide receivers, at least in terms of consistency, because I do see some people talking about that in the chat, who's better right now currently playing than Mike Evans. Statistically, in terms of consistency and just being healthy, there isn't anybody who's better, right? In terms of pure consistency in their career, nobody beats that, right? Nobody has had more 1,000-yard receiving seasons to start their career than Mike Evans. Almost nobody has had more consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons than Mike Evans. I mean, he's also up there for just the most 1,000-yard receiving seasons in a career, period. Nobody in the modern day NFL is close to what that is right now. I mean, point blank, simple as that, guys. So you do have to rank Mike Evans top tier in terms of modern day NFL receivers. You have to. I mean, in this is where you dive into that idea, right? That there is still some people out there who do sleep on Mike Evans, who do say, well, he is a good receiver, but Devontae Adams, but some of the other wide receivers that may be out there, Cooper Kupp, right? But Justin Jefferson. And I will say all those guys are phenomenal wide receivers, right? And maybe in terms of pure, athleticism and from a pure versatility perspective, I would say they do have more in terms of versatility, maybe athleticism, and in terms of all those different types of things than Mike Evans. But in terms of a guy who can go in, he can be your number one guy and can put up numbers, Mike Evans hangs with all of them. He really does. Point blank, simple as that. He hangs with all of them. And folks, it's just going to get more noticeable as the next couple of years go on. People are finally starting to notice it now in terms of overall stats because it has to take literally breaking NFL records and setting NFL records for people to notice Mike Evans, but it's just going to continue to grow in the next couple of years when Mike Evans, if he does get 1,000 yards next year and he does tie Jerry Rice for the most consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards receiving, people are going to notice more. If Mike Evans gets 1,000 yards after that and breaks the record, people are going to notice more. If he makes the playoffs a couple more times, if he wins another Super Bowl ring somewhere down the line, people are going to notice more. I mean, point blank simple as that. Somebody just brought up this stat too. 15.4 yards per reception is Mike Evans' career total. That is insane. That's insane to me. Like the 91 touchdowns, the 15.4 yards per reception, the 11,437 receiving yards. Like maybe some people are looking at those numbers and they say, whatever, it might not seem like a big number to some people. If that's the case, I would say, well, I don't know, maybe go take a math class or something. But secondly, is just we just looked at how it compares to the career numbers of some of the bests. Like Mike Evans is already in the top 50 in receiving, or top 45 in receiving yards. He's almost in the top 30 in receiving touchdowns. That matters. That again, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it really is something that I've never seen in my lifetime in terms of this level of consistency, in terms of this level of statistics. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald was the only other guy that I've really seen in the modern day NFL that was able to just time and time again go out there and perform and showcase all the different things that you want to see in one of the greats. And it's a great thing to see. Congratulations to Mike Evans for continuing to make NFL history. Congratulations for him for being already, when he's still got a few years left in his career, a top 30 to 35 wide receiver in NFL history. And I can't wait to watch this guy continue to play. It is just a fantastic thing to see, folks. It really is. And the season's not even over at the recording of this video. We just wrapped up week number, let's see what week we're on. We're on week 13, I believe. 12. Yeah, we're on week, well, no, 13. We're on week 13. So we still got 5 more games to watch for Mike Evans to build up on that 1,012 receiving yards so far this year, 10 receiving touchdowns. A lot of guys might not know this, but at the whenever they honored Mike Evans at the Bucs game, Chris Godwin mimicked putting a crown on Mike Evans' head, and that's the most accurate way that I can put it, because Mike Evans is the king of consistency, being consistently good year in, year out. He continues to show that week in and week out. It's one of the reasons why he is the best in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history, and now getting to be one of the best. He already is one of the best, but continuing to climb as top tier, the best in NFL history as well. So, guys, thank you so much for watching this live stream. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. And I've seen a lot of love from Mike Evans in the chat, understandably so. He's pretty darn good at football. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and would love to hear more of your guys' thoughts and opinions about Mike Evans down in the chat in the comments section below. Thank you so much for Bleacher Report for bringing me on for yet another live stream. I love doing these. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel, MrBucsNation, if you guys have not done so already. Again, my name is James Hill. I'm here a lot every single week for a lot of live streams talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here on the Bleacher Report app. And by the way, go check out everything else the app has to offer, not just for the Bucs, but not just for the NFL, but for college football, NFL, NBA, MLB, everything that you want revolving around sports. You're going to find it here on the Bleacher Report app. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, guys, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream here on the Bleacher Report app or on my YouTube channel. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now. Talk to you soon, and go Bucs.